everyone, and welcome back to the Izzy and Alex show. We have a very special guest with us today, but before I introduce her, just make sure you follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube so you can get notified when we upload. Today, all the way from the US, we are joined with Bianca Wulwick, host of the Please Don't Kick Me Out podcast. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
I am lovely. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be a guest on your guys' show. I just love your banter and I'm here for it. I feel like a friend.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about kind of the differences between the UK and the US, from like food to phrases. So we thought, should we just dive straight in? Got a few questions. Cool. So one thing that we wanted to ask is a lot of people I know that have been to the US, they've noticed that the food is much bigger than it is here. And there's a lot. Yeah. So a lot of people to know this one. So I was just wondering, is that true? And like, why is that?
That is absolutely a great question. Obesity in America is a big, big thing. We have this show called like My 600-Pound Life. We have the 1,000-Pound Sisters. Like we have shows about bariatric surgery. And I don't know why. Like there was a trend a while back to put all of the calories on things, but it didn't stop people from ordering like a giant Chipotle burrito and eating it in one sitting. I live in San Diego where the burritos are a size of a baby, and you're like, okay, but like, is this a meal for a whole day? Because I'm a small person, and you tend to overeat, and that's actually like it's insanity, the sizing of plates. And they'll say serves 2 to 4, but they'll bring out like a buffet table of food, and you're like, well, what is there 45 people showing up to eat this? So I couldn't tell you. I just know that for some reason, that's just what we do. And it shocks a lot of people who come to our country. They're like, this makes no sense.
Wow.
Also, our candy's terrible. Your candy is better.
Yeah, so I've had Hershey. I went to America about 2 years ago, and I had Hershey's, and I thought it was the most revolting thing I've ever eaten. It was like, no offense, but
Oh, I'm not offended.
offense.
I agree with you. It tastes like trash. It's trash.
Yeah, compared to like we have Cadbury's over here, and that tastes like so much nice. I don't know. Have you ever tried British candy? Like, have you seen the difference?
So let me give you my backstory. So I have been to the UK multiple times. At one point, I even dated a Geordie. Sorry for me. Yeah, he wasn't even like a real Geordie. He was like a live with his parents and like doesn't drink Geordie, so he wasn't even fun Geordie. But it was gorgeous up there. But I've been many times, and we have family friends in England, and I play UK bingo with Charlie Hides every Sunday. So I've made friends through that as well in the UK. And my favorite chocolates are the Celebration and the Roses. And I love those. So I've grown up eating them. So I feel like I know a lot more about the UK than maybe the average American might. But absolutely, like, if it was my last meal and they were going to like lethally inject me, Cadbury Roses would probably be part of the menu. For sure. And I'm not even a sweets person.
Is there any like candy in America that you actually do like, or is it just strictly UK that you prefer?
I like Skittles and Starburst. Like I'm more of the fruity flavors. Starburst, Twizzlers. Red Vine's okay, but I'm weird. I love Raisinets, like because they're sort of healthy, but not really healthy. Like it's like, ooh, I'm being kind of bad, but also good. I like Raisinets a lot, and Whoppers, which are like milk chocolate over malted, like malt. They're really good. They'd be like a Malteser there.
Now, we wanted to talk about the education system because we are just clueless about it. And in films and like movies and whatever, it always seems so interesting. Like, how was school like for you, I guess?
The way America is each state governs themselves by their own set of rules, but we are under the same constitutional federal rights, right? So each state can decide what they're going to do. So each state's education system is different. So I went to, most states will do kindergarten through 5th grade or 6th grade. And then they'll do like a middle school, or sometimes they'll go kindergarten through all the way through middle school. And then high school would be what your guys' college is. And high school is 4 years. So your kindergarten would be, so you go preschool, kindergarten, and then 1st through 8th is like on a primary age, middle school age. Middle school for me was 6th through 8. So I went to 2 different schools in Minnesota. Then I moved to Colorado, and then I went to 1 year. So I went to 5th grade in elementary school, and then went into a feeder school in middle school. So I was there for 3 years. And then I went to high school for 4. And then you don't have to go to college. College is for profit in the United States. So you can get scholarships and whatnot, but I ended up going to University of Northern Colorado, which is about 45 minutes north of where I went to high school. And I went there for 3.5 years because I did summer school, and I graduated with exactly 120 credits. And then I moved to Denver. And that was in 2010. So it's been a bit. Now I'm in San Diego. So I'm talking to you guys from the West Coast.
Oh God, you've been everywhere. Jesus Christ.
No, I haven't. In fact, I had never been to New York City, and I went in 2019, and I'd never been, and I finally went, and I was like, oh, okay, like been there.
That's crazy.
One thing I've noticed in like a lot of American films is that they have a graduation for like each school year. I don't know if that's true.
Nope, just your senior year. Just your senior year, and then you do have a graduation from like 5th grade. So when you get out of that school, you have like an unofficial graduation. I remember my 5th grade, I had never missed a day of class because I never got sick. And so I got like the perfect attendance award. My parents were so proud. I was like, okay. And then in middle school, we did an 8th grade graduation, I believe, but it wasn't like anything formal. In high school graduations, like in all the films that you see where they're tossing the caps, that happens. And my college graduation, it was kind of like I graduated in the winter, so there wasn't much fanfare. And then now that it's been a pandemic, like they've been doing that crap virtually. So I don't really know how they do it these days, but you have to buy a gown, and it's like made of rayon. And my high school graduation, we were sitting on the asphalt in front of our football field, and like it was like 100 degrees. We were in the sun, and you're wearing this reflective gown, you're just sweating profusely, and then you have to like go across the stage and grab your diploma, and then take the picture, and then like walk off. And then it was very uneventful. Like it seems like it would be really cool, and then like it happens, and you're like, oh, okay, well now what?
That's so weird, because we literally just graduate after university, or I think you call it college, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like a big deal. But like after high school, that's so like we literally just say see ya, and then that's it. Like maybe that's more of a British thing, just like we don't like to over sort of compliment ourselves. I think.
And I'm sure you'll ask this. So like we can't drink at 18. We can only drink at 21. I don't know why that is. It actually, statistics have shown that it actually leads to binge drinking in college, which actually leads to a lot of deaths and problems and DUIs and things that are not fun or cute. And so like alcohol is very accepted in the UK. Like you grow up around it. In the USA, it's like, ooh, taboo. Like, but there's some cool parents that would let their kids drink underage. Mine were not. Jerry and Sandy and Jer Bear were fuddy-duddies, and so I wasn't allowed to drink until I was 21 years old. And my dad thought he was taking me out for my first ever beer, and I was like, no. But that's cute that you think that, Dad.
That's so funny, because I guess all of our social sort of occasions are all based around drinking in the UK, and that's not an understatement. Like
that is true.
I feel like
that is true.
I feel like everything like revolves like the pub or like going out, and like definitely like before 18 it's normal to have your first drink at like
isn't it
15.
When you're 16 or so you are allowed to, because I've watched was it The In-Betweeners, where it's like he goes to the pub and he demands his roast meal and his cider, and that's how we can we don't even have, well, some states like Texas you can do that, but like again it goes from the umbrella of like each state commands whatever they want to do differently. So in some states like Utah, for instance, it's very Mormon led, and their leadership is somewhat more Mormon and evangelical and whatever. They are very like alcohol adverse because it's a sin in their religion, and that's what's running their their state. You can't even, like, you have to go to a store. There's other states, I think Rhode Island, you have to go to a physical store to get it. In Colorado, you couldn't just go to the grocery store and get wine. You would have to go to the flagship store, and that was the only one that could have wine. And that was for small businesses because Coors Light, which is one of the bigger beer brands, had the chokehold on the alcohol market. So they made it so that you couldn't buy alcohol. You couldn't buy beer in the store unless it was under 3.2%. And so they were the only ones that were allowed to sell because they were 3.2%. So it's interesting, kind of like just the way that we're very corporate here in America.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Yeah, sorry, I just can't get my head around that. So like they have that much power over like
Oh
here.
yeah, moving to California, I was at a writing, like I'll never forget, like my husband's from Southern California, and my husband's in the Navy, and he's currently deployed. And I remember like we just moved here, and I came home, I was like, babe, I went to Rite Aid and there was a wine aisle, and he was like, oh, that's so cute, you've never seen that? I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, I went in for allergy meds and I came out with wine. He was like, I'm very proud of you. Okay.
That's so funny.
When can you drive? Because for us it's 17. I don't know what it is over in the US.
It varies by state, but mostly traditionally, so for me, I was 15, I was allowed to take driver's education, and 16, so then I had to drive with a person that was over 21, my dad, and he was a horrible teacher. Sorry, Dad. I love him, but no, he was terrifying. Like I was terrified to drive. Then at 16, you get your license, and you still have some like curfews and parameters, but for the most part, that's like your freedom and you're able to drive. And of course, my parents were very conservative and very like controlling. So I was only able to drive it to and from school, and they would monitor my gas to make sure that I didn't drive more than the allotted amount. And then one day I was like, we used to have this gym class, and it was an hour and a half gym class. I hated gym, which is so funny because now I'm like a super big, huge Peloton user and I love working out, but I hated it when I was a kid. And I was like, F this. And I just ditched, and I went to go to Starbucks, and I was 16 and a half, and I think, or maybe 17. And I was driving back into school, and I pulled out and I didn't see this lady, and I hit her and like kind of like tapped her. And I had to call my dad, and my dad worked a mile away, and he was over in a flash, and he was like screaming at me, and the cops were there, and I'm sobbing. And my dad and my mom took my car away for a whole year. I had to ride the bus with like middle schoolers. It was a nightmare. And and a whole year, hell hath no fury than Jer Bear being mad at me. A whole year. And it was mortifying, but you know what? Like I learned my lesson, like, and I'm very much a rule follower now, but at the time I was like,
That's so funny. So you said there that like you were on the bus to school, and that was like weird with like the middle schoolers.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously that's crazy, because obviously we were like, most people get the bus to school like up until 18. I think that's over here. So that's so crazy to me that people would like say things about you getting the bus, because here it would be, I think it's the opposite.
I feel it's a sin. You don't want to ride. You're not a bus person. Like like the whole thing, it's like a pomp and status. Like it's like I went to the high school where if you crashed your BMW, daddy bought you a Hummer. Like I went to a very rich like neighborhood school, and we were like upper middle class, but we were still, we didn't have like bins money. My dad drove an Audi, and I got one after graduating college from my dad as a gift, and it was a Lemon, and it was the worst car. And then now I drive a Mazda, and I love that car. But it was like my sister had a Mitsubishi Eclipse. My dad bought her, and so I inherited that car, and I loved that car, and it stopped working. My parents wouldn't let me take it to college because they're like, no, like you'll probably get a DUI, like don't. So thank goodness they didn't, because I probably would have, because there was no cab or Uber or Lyft at the time system. And so we were just like walking to house parties underage. And in the USA, you can get this thing called minor in possession ticket. So if they catch you drinking under this happens at college. It's a way for the cops to make money. This happens at college. They would like go to a party, bust it, and if you're underage, under the age of 21, they would give you a minor in possession ticket, and then you'd have to like go to your school and like ask for like academic, like have to go before the board, and like I'm not a bad student, I promise. And I got one of those, and Jer Bear was not happy.
Oh my God, we would be fucked in England if that happened. We would be absolutely like literally at 18 we're just like going to house parties, like it's normal. Like it's completely normal. I feel like it's almost the opposite, as in I feel like people ridicule the richer people. So like at my school, when people drove in, we were like, oh, like not ridicule, I don't know how to describe it, but kind of like what you said, like where you were from, they look down on you if you went in on a bus. Where we're from, we sort of look down on people that can drive because we're like,
what kind of money do you have?
like I feel like the piss like there's more piss taken like from people that can't. It's so random. That's so weird. It's like flipped. Wow, we did want to speak about language. I don't because I'm an English language graduate. So why is everything so oversimplified? Like you can't say pavement, you have to say sidewalk. Like that blows my mind.
It does, yeah.
That's a good example. I mean, we call it all sorts of things. Like we do call it, I usually call it, well, I don't call it pavement, I call it sidewalk. You're right, we do oversimplify things. What else do we? It's weird because I like grew up going to England and having like British friends and friends from the UK, like, and I've been all over the UK. And so for me, it's always weird because it's just, I grew up with this normal language.
Yeah.
And when I hear sometimes it's also interesting in the USA because like there's different accents. So like I have somewhat of a Minnesota accent because I was born there. So my A's and my O's are longer. And then like people have in the South have more of a Southern drawl. And California is very like laid back, and you can like tell someone's from Southern California just based on the way that they talk, and someone's from Northern California based on the way they talk. So language is weird, and it's similar in the UK where there's different dialects, and like Geordie, for instance, is completely backwards in difference than like maybe Welsh, which is its own language and stuff. So I couldn't tell you why we oversimplify things. I'm really honestly not sure. And if you can think of another example, gosh, I don't know. Like nothing's coming to mind. I really couldn't tell you.
No, I can't think of anything. I was just a question I had.
Another thing we wanted to talk about is like your holidays, because you have ones that we don't have. You have ones like 4th of July and Thanksgiving. So what kind of happens on those, and where did they kind of like originate from?
Okay, so let's talk Thanksgiving. So the Pilgrims decided that they didn't want to be in the UK anymore, and so they said bye, and they got in a boat, and then they made it to the United States, and then they took the land from the Native Americans, which is horrible, and America is not kind to its Native Americans, and it's not cool. And then we culturally appropriate them because at the time the settlers had made friends. Okay, and don't come for me, people, if I'm incorrect. They made friends, this is how they taught us. They made friends, and they shared bread, and they did a Thanksgiving meal, and it was like corn, and there was a turkey, and that's like the first thing, right? That's how we grew up knowing it. We grew up with the Pocahontas movie. Oh, like it's so like Disneyfied. No, it's way worse than that, but it's turned into a Hallmark holiday essentially, where now it's where we celebrate and we say what we're thankful for. And so for me, like we always do a Friendsgiving, which is instead of spending it with family, we always spend it with our friends. And we have, so a traditional meal would be a turkey, stuffing, which is bread and celery and onion, which is my favorite. I make my great grandma's recipe. And then we do a green bean casserole, which is green beans, cream of mushroom, and French onions on the top. A lot of these are like Betty Crocker, like old recipes, and we just pass them down and pass them down and pass them down. And every family has a different traditional dish. And then I have an amazing dish called jalapeno cream corn, which I bring to every meal, and everyone always asks me for the recipe. And it's everything bad and fattening in it, which is very American, and it's also delicious. So we celebrate that. So that's Thanksgiving, and that's always on the day. It's always the last Thursday of the month of November, and that kicks off our holiday season. And there's a huge debate in the United States on when it's acceptable to put your Christmas tree up. For me and my family, and the way I grew up, minus last year in the pandemic, I was sad and I was like, I'm putting my Christmas tree up now. I normally will wait until the day after Thanksgiving, which is the traditional. The other people put theirs up after Halloween, and that's like, no, but you're skipping Thanksgiving. Like, that's not okay. What other holidays do we have? Well, obviously 4th of July, which is gaining our country's independence. We celebrate that. And that is always, of course, the 4th of July. And I know Canada Day is like a couple of days before ours. I think, and you guys, we celebrate a different Mother's Day than you do.
Yeah,
So your
you
Mother's
do,
Day was
yeah.
last Sunday, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Happy Mother's Day to your moms. Ours is on the 15th, or it's like, it's sometime in May. I don't know what
May,
day it is.
yeah, it's May
Oh,
time.
okay.
Usually.
So, and would you like drink at these celebrations? Like, you know, so 4th of July, is that just
Oh,
like
4th
a
of July
massive...
is just a drunk. We also have Labor Day and Memorial Day. Memorial Day is to remember veterans, and Labor Day is to honor like workers.
Yeah.
And those are 3-day weekends. And we also do President's Day, which is like to honor the presidents or whatever. And we also have Martin Luther King Day, which has been which happens. We have a Black History Month. We have a Women's History Month. We have all these things that we traditionally look at and honor. And I don't know.
That's so many. Like, we have like, I feel like we've just sort
We don't
of
have
You
like...
guys have Guy Fawkes Day. We don't have that.
Yeah, we call it bonfire night. No one really knows the history anymore. I feel like we just burn... It's really weird, actually, when you think about it. Like, we burn this, like, figure, and it goes up in flames for, like, no reason. I think it's meant to represent Guy Fawkes, and we do a load of fireworks. But that's not really... To be fair, that's the only one that we don't really drink at. Like, it's more of a just...
Well, good, because drunk people and fires, they don't go hand in hand. That's bad.
That's probably why. Like, maybe we're a bit, like, fire safety smart. I know, so that's no, but Halloween, I think that's becoming a thing. It was when we were growing.
Yeah. So I've got a story for you for that. So my one of my oldest friends, her name's Jessica. She lives in Chichester, and I've known her since we were toddlers. And my dad and her dad worked together. He was on assignment at IBM. And then, of course, we like went and visited them after they came back from assignment. And she had grown up doing Halloween. So first year they're back, they're thinking like, yeah, I'm sure other people do this, right? Like they've never, this is their first kid, right? Like they're like, oh yeah, I'm sure this happens nowadays. And like, it was her favorite holiday. Like she loved it. And so she, like, they knock on their neighbor's door and they're like, trick or treat. And the neighbor's like, what the fuck is this? Like, she's like gonna go. And now you guys celebrate it, and it's Halloween is a pagan tradition. I'm not really sure the history behind it. And these days, people don't really go knock on doors, but as a kid, it was everything. And if you went to a house and they gave you a king-size candy bar, like which is the biggest size of candy bar, like that person had money, and you would go there first because you're like, yes, king-size candy bar. But really, that person just went to Costco. So that was kind of the thing. And then in college it just basically turns into like college in your 20s, and as an adult it's just an excuse to just get really, really effed up.
Same for us, really. Yeah, the clubs are packed on Halloween.
Yeah, I don't know post-pandemic like what that's gonna look like, but personally I'm not comfortable, and Halloween at a gay bar is the best time you'll ever have in your entire life. Like oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
That's so no, that's so funny. No, definitely true. I can definitely confirm that.
Definitely. So another thing I wanted to ask as well, kind of going back on the school thing, you're judging by films again, your prom seems a lot more like a bigger event than ours. Like we have a prom, but in like it always looks so much more like massive in like American films.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's actually super disappointing. Let's talk about the only time. Well, I went to prom twice. I went to prom as a sophomore. My friend Pablo asked me to go. He was a junior, and that was so much fun, and I had a blast. And then our senior committee kind of like pooped the bed on it. Like it wasn't great. So I graduated in 2007, so we were 007 themed, but instead of doing 007, they decided to do a night in Paris. And I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. And so what they would do, well, first of all, they breathalyze everyone as they came in because they wanted to make sure no one was drinking. And I was like such a prude in high school. Like I barely drank, but my boyfriend and I at the time, his name was Colin, he went to a different school. And so I invited him to my prom. We rented a limo. We went to Buca di Beppo, which is a chain restaurant where it serves family style. And we went there for dinner, and it was super close to the venue, which was in Broomfield. And he and I had the grand idea to make pot brownies, and we ate all of them, but we used too big of a pan. And they kicked in at the after party, which they then would do a casino night at the gym to make sure people weren't drinking and having underage sex and whatever. So they kicked in, and then he and I went to Waffle House, and the dance, can't really remember anything about it, other than that it was weird. It just was kind of, it was just meh. Like it's not like a grand old part, like you see these gyms and they're filled and there's punch and it looks really cool. No.
Ours isn't that.
Wasn't like, it's, I don't know, other people might have a different story. I just went to a school that was just like boring. It was like a beige cardigan. Like it was just not.
We're not allowed.
Not much. Homecoming was always fun. Homecoming was definitely like those movies. Prom, no.
But what you described as prom sounded like so much better than like what we had.
Because we can't invite like other people from other schools to our proms or like in the year below. That's the only thing. Yeah, that's the big difference. Like it's
that's what if you were dating someone in a different grade, or they went off to college, or you know,
they couldn't come.
Which is quite mean.
Oh, that's quite mean. Well, I mean, to be fair, like we kind of had that system too, but people didn't really check. They didn't like they would make you show your school ID, but.
So we did want to speak to you about TV shows, especially. I know you've messaged us about Drag Race, and we want, especially because there's a UK and a USA version. What I guess my first question is, what do you think is the main difference between British and American TV?
The humor, because you guys have a different type of humor than we do. Our humor is sometimes very dumb and crass, and yours is very like polished and pristine, and you have to like really think on the joke. Also, you are very polite and typically very, as we've seen it, proper. So it's just a little more sophistication goes into what you do. Then again, I've also seen Towie. So I've watched that. And so I know that that's not necessarily always completely true. And whenever we take something from you, like The Office, and we made an American version, it's like I've never seen the British Office, but I know I have watched all of our Office. We sometimes, like, we tried to do a Skins in the United States and it failed because it's not accurate. That's not real life. For us, we have at least for me, like if I ever snuck out of my house, my parents bought the house specifically so that none of us could sneak out, and they would know. So like then the stairs were creaky, and my dad would deadbolt the door, and you could unlock it, and my parents are so quiet that like it would just wake up an entire house. Like they would know. So I never snuck out. I never did any of those things like Skins. And I think other than that, I mean, to touch on like UK Drag Race versus USA Drag Race, we've had it for far longer, and so Michelle Visage is a lot meaner to the queens in the United States, and she's a lot kinder to the queens in the UK because they're just starting out. And because I do drag bingo with Charlie Hides every Sunday, I have a different perspective about the UK drag, because he talks about how different drag queens in the UK are, because drag queens in the UK, it's not that it's a new thing or anything like that, but they have to be comedy, talent, funny, campy, turning out their looks. And it's definitely, at least for the UK's, it's more in its infancy for some, but there are very tenured queens such as Charlie, who is an expat, and others. And I liked it. Although when I watch USA drag bingo, it's like the Super Bowl to me. So, which is like this thing, football thing here, and football and soccer are different sports in America, and we call it, you guys call it soccer football, and we call it soccer, and it's not as popular in the United States. Football, sports ball, where you get a concussion, that's what we prefer. And we also play baseball instead of cricket.
Okay.
And we have basketball, which I'm sure isn't a thing there either, and hockey, maybe a thing.
I think basketball's getting bigger. There's like a arena. I'm from Leicester, And there's a arena specifically for basketball now, which is like a new thing. I think it's becoming a thing. Yeah, so definitely.
Yeah. But to go back to the UK drag race, I'll be honest, when it's USA drag race, I'm screaming at my TV. I am like dying. I'm gagged. But UK is I'm a little more disconnected from it. And I have the WoW Presents app. So I do watch all of the other international seasons. I've watched them and it just isn't the same for me as USA. Bingo. However, I really got into it on the last couple of episodes because I was like, they're giving Lawrence the edit that she's going to win. And then suddenly they stopped giving her that edit. And I was like, ooh, maybe Bimini has it. Maybe Bimini's got it. And then Taste kind of like was like, hold my beer, hold on. And I really loved Taste's story. And I use this app called Marco Polo, and my friend Dylan and I send each other Marco Polos while we're watching, and then we don't spoil it for each other, but we're 3 hours difference in time zone. And so he was like, oh, have you watched it yet? Oh, I won't spoil it for you. Okay. I was like, okay. He's like, I want your reactions, like for the, like this, that, and the other. So I'm watching this lip sync go down, and Lawrence Chaney was just teapot. Here's my handle. Here's my spout. She just twirled her way into the center. And her outfit reminded me of the jumpsuit guy in Despicable Me 1. And I just was not here for it. And I was like, that's too on the nose. Like, you did the dress. I'm glad she won. It's a great win for Scotland. I think it's amazing. I've got a friend from Glasgow, so I really think it's great. But I also felt like Ellie Diamond never got to shine because of Lawrence, because they put two Scottish queens that are actually rivals but sisters together. And I don't know, Bimini had a story that I really connected with, and she could have been a better queen. And a lot of the times I was just surprised that Lawrence won, because Lawrence would be so good on All Stars. Yeah.
Did you get the references? Because watching the American version, I have no idea what's going on. Like I love it, but I watch it more for the looks and the lip syncs than the actual challenges.
Yeah. If you ever have any questions, just message me. Like, what is that? Well, there was some references I didn't quite understand. Like, I know what EastEnders is, but I've never seen EastEnders. And so there was like, when they're like, Mickey, I was like, what is that? Like, I don't know. And so I'm usually on my phone scrolling or watching TikTok or whatever. And then I wait for the runway, kind of like you probably do, wait for the runway and that. And then also the one episode they didn't put on the WoW app was UK Hun. And so I'm seeing it on TikTok, like people are like, bing, bang, bong. And I was like, what is this? And I looked at the app, and they had, that's the one episode they didn't release. So I couldn't tell you what they were singing about.
That was the best. So we have a thing called Eurovision in Europe. I don't know if you know much about it.
I know Eurovision. We don't have it here.
Yeah.
But yeah. I know Eurovision, and there's a movie on Netflix about it as well now, and people think it's fake, and I'm like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that challenge was to basically have a song for Ruru Vision, is what they called it, just to. So that was
I get really bored during the musical. Like, we need to get rid of some musicals. Like the Rats one, like I fully fell asleep. I was like, because usually I watch it in the morning, like before I get up and work out and whatever else I'm doing, and I was just bored. But I'm so glad you guys have UK. And a lot of I don't know if like you've seen some like reactions, or if your friends have been like, what, like, why did Lawrence win? Like, Lawrence, if you listening to this, sorry, I do think you're amazing. I just really was surprised that you won.
Yeah, I can't really pick a preference between UK and US Drag Race. Do you have like a favorite queen from like the entire show? Across the
it used to be Honey Davenport. I've been to DragCon, so it used to be Honey Davenport and tie between Honey and Trinity, the Tuck Taylor. And Honey is amazing. And now it's without a doubt, hands down, like, put a gun to my head, it is definitely Charlie Hides. Charlie is, you'd blink and she was off the season. Charlie is the oldest contestant there's ever been, but Charlie is also the richest in knowledge, wealth, talent, humility, kindness. She hosts drag bingo, isolation bingo. She does a UK version for you guys. So every day it'll be 7 p.m. your time. Tickets are £7, I want to say. And then once you've played once, you become part of the bingo bunch, and then you get discounted tickets. and you play via Zoom. It is so much fun. If you play, tell her I sent you. There is also a USA version. You can buy your tickets at dragqueen.bingo. And Charlie has been a guest on my podcast. Charlie's a friend of mine on Facebook. Charlie knows everything about my life. She started isolation. It's so wholesome. She started it because all of her gigs went away. Like, and why wouldn't you? Her sister is Bingo. Sister in the States her name's Mary. She goes by Bingo Barrel. She calls all the numbers, so she'll like be in the chat. And it's just become a whole community. There's merchandise. We've made friendships from it. So I will always respect Charlie with everything, every ounce of my heart. My husband even got me a private anniversary bingo. And I've made so many friends from it. One of the people that plays is Gwen Stefani's makeup artist, Gregory Arlt, who's now a friend of mine. And there's in the UK, there's Jane, I think her name is Jane Gage. She does all of Charlie's wigs and all the wigs for orchestra and stuff. So I'm saying you have to play. It's just so much fun. If you ever have the time on a Sunday, you're bored, play it. So yes, so Charlie is definitely my favorite. So I host a podcast called Please Don't Kick Me Out. It is a podcast about imposter syndrome. My main bread and butter as a strong ally for the LGBTQIA+ community. I have a lot of trans friends and queer bending and gender bending friends as well, who have felt other than and left out. Imposter syndrome is the feeling of not fitting in, the feeling of not being able to accept your own accomplishments, feeling like if you earn something, you don't deserve it. You're in a room full of people, everyone's smarter than you. It's a self-esteem thing. It's a human emotion. And I started my podcast because I got laid off last year at the pandemic, and it was something I always wanted to do. And so I just started it, figured no one would ever listen. And now I'm interviewing drag queens. I'm living the dream. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for the education. But you can find me at Please Don't Kick Me Out, www.pleasedon'tkickmeout.com. And if you're interested in being a guest, you can email me pdkmopodcast@gmail.com. I release episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. and I will be sure to share this interview with my listeners as well. So.
Oh, thank you so much. And that's actually so interesting that about sort of the imposter syndrome, because I feel like British people are very sort of negative about themselves, whereas I've always got the impression from American people that they are so self-confident, like from movies and everything like that. So I was really interested when I I was so interested. So maybe, I mean, if we need to book something in, obviously, but maybe we could talk about that, because I'm really interested in because I always see Americans people as super self-confident, like have a great day, like dude, like psyched. But that's crazy to me that like it's obviously, as you've said, not like that.
Yeah, no, it's not really like that, but it's funny kind of perceptions and whatnot, and really like the realities are so different. Like I'm sure you saw it coming to America, like it's not really what you think it would be. And I think people go to the UK and think, oh, well, it's not like really what that Friends episode was. I'm confused. So yeah, but again, thank you guys this was such a delight, and this really warmed my heart, and I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I think it's fun to have a little cuppa and a chat. So I really, really appreciate you guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and catch up on Drag Race. Let me know your thoughts, because I have so many about it, but the right person went home, I'll just say that.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'll watch it after this and I'll be messaging you like, oh my God.
All right, guys. Well, nice to meet you. And if you have any questions, follow up with me.
Nice to meet you. Bye.